Chelsea survive a truly bonkers cup tie. I don't know how to make a show like this where it's so easy to be really, really negative based on the second half, but, truly forget the fact that Chelsea have actually won and we're through to the last day of the League Cup. We didn't do that last season and we didn't do that in the FA Cup. So in a sense, yeah, there was a win. And in the first half, I thought there was some really lovely stuff with some of our players. Intricate moves. Jamie Gittens scoring his first Chelsea goal that should have been more emphatic, really. But I cannot get away from that second half. A game, you cannot forget that Chelsea, against a Wolves side that looked completely aimless, clueless, dead at half-time, 3-0 up Chelsea, absolutely cruising. This should be a comfortable stroll in the park at Molineux for the rest of this game, and Chelsea will breeze through into the last day of this competition. Instead, Chelsea's second half was abysmal. I mean, it was one of the worst second halves we've seen from Chelsea in some time. And that's saying something given some of the halves I've watched this season from Chelsea. And it continues a pattern of concerns I have about this current Chelsea team. Add to that, it's another red card. Liam Delap, we've been waiting for his return. Well, this was his return. And instead of scoring a goal, he gets himself stupidly sent off. Chelsea defensively, again, the basics, long throws, seeming unable, incapable of dealing with long throws, and just overwhelmed by the worst team in the Premier League. And that is something that I think, if this was a mad cup tie that had come after a run of really, really convincing Chelsea performances and we had a really strong start to the year, yeah, sure, there'd be some concern, but you could kind of chalk it up as maybe it's just a mad night in the cup, right? And these things happen. I don't think, from where I sit, if we look at the season in totality so far, I don't think you can make that assessment. And I think it's really frustrating because there were some positive things in the first half. There were certain players who I think deserve to walk out this game with credit. But heading into the weekend against Spurs, I don't think any of the concerns that we had after Sunderland and so far this season will be alleviated, especially when you consider who this opposition was and how poor Chelsea looked in that second half. And questions will again be asked towards Enzo Maresca, towards his players, towards the way this team seems to just implode at times during games. I mean, completely incapable of defending quite basic things and lose all cohesion, really. So, I mean, if it wasn't for that Jamie Gittens rocket, I think we may be sitting here having a very different conversation. So you don't want to get away from the fact that we've won and praise some of those players in the first half, but also that second half being as bad as it was, even when we threw on first team players and that making no difference. I mean, that's what makes this a really manic game for Chelsea. The first 11 in this game was not radically different to what I anticipated. I think I was 1 or 2 off my predicted 11. I predicted that Liam Delap would start. Instead, Tyrique George started, and Tosin started in defence alongside Josh Achimpong instead of Fofana. So overall, it was Jorgensen, Malo Gusto, Josh Achimpong, Tosin, Hato, Lavia, Santos, Estevao, Buonanotte, Gittens and George. Chelsea were definitely aided in that first half by a Wolves side that were very happy to pass the ball to them inside their own half around their 6-yard box. That, of course, is very grateful, because I think in this game, looking at the way they sort of set up, you thought they're going to sit really deep. Chelsea are going to have to break them down. How are Chelsea going to get around that, given the problems they had against Sunderland? It was clear early on how just lacking confidence and quality Wolves were. And at times, watching that first half, considering the challenges we had in the last round against Lincoln, you were thinking, are Wolves even a League One side, let alone a Premier League side at the moment? But I thought, even with that said, the quality of the finishes were really, really good. Andrey Santos, I spoke about him, really needs to take this opportunity. Him scoring, that is his first Chelsea goal, I'm pretty sure. Really good finish, left foot into the bottom corner, being really ruthless with the opportunity. Jamie Gittens was over that as well. He was kind of involved in everything brilliant for Chelsea tonight when it was going well. And we started off fluid. I thought that the moves of the players, Buonanotte was dropping deep, the way Gittens was moving down that left flank, just being really electric. Santos getting involved in an attacking point of view as well. And Estevao out there as well, really dazzling at times too. The second goal was just a great fluid move from the centre out to Jamie Gittens, and there was Tyrique George, right place, right time, great movement, perfect timing. to put the ball in the back of the net. And for Tyrique George, when he does start as a striker, you want him scoring goals. And that's exactly what he did. A nice tap in for him. Keeps his run going in his competition, scored in the last round as well. And then the third goal again was another self-implosion from Wolves, really. But again, Andrey Santos capitalising, and this time his Brazilian peer Estevao with a very cheeky chip to make it 3-0. Estevao getting on the act as well. And from that point, you're kind of like, well, Chelsea are just going to breeze and walk through. Like, the game over. You might as well just, get yourself a cup of tea at half-time, relax. Maybe focus on something else, because this game seems to be over and done with. How foolish was I? Because literally at half time, we come up for the second half. No changes are made, but Chelsea very quickly start to implode. Firstly, Bonanotte giving the ball cheaply away. And Aruka Dare finishes getting behind Chelsea's centre-back pairing. And again, you think about the counter-attacking goals that Chelsea have conceded so far this season, the one we conceded at the weekend. And conceding that early into the second half, it is slightly concerning, because there's a lot of time left in the game. And if you're the Wolves, faithful, really, you're starting to think, well, if we get another one within the next 10, 15 minutes, even 20 minutes, this game then becomes a contest. And that was my concern for Chelsea. Chelsea just never got going in this second half. And I think, again, my concern with this was that how basic it seemed for Wolves to undermine Chelsea. It was very direct. It was quite basic. It was, throwing Strand Larsen on there. It was punting the ball towards our centre-backs, trying to win those second balls, which Chelsea weren't winning. And from an attacking point of view, it seemed no matter what Maresca was doing from the bench, he was bringing on Delap. He brought on Enzo Fernandez from the bench as well. Seemed like no matter what Maresca did, Neto was thrown on as well. So experienced, kind of more senior players. Cucurella came off the bench as well. Chelsea had no semblance of control in this game. It completely went pretty much from the start of the second half, especially from the first Wolves goal. It did take a while for their second goal to come, which then, very much turned it in a more chaotic way with Wolf. Again, you look at that long throw, you think about Sunderland at the weekend, you think about Brentford. It was something I was literally speaking about earlier this week, of you cannot be this bad at defending set pieces. You will be punished against a variety of teams. This is a team who are bottom of the Premier League, who are struggling for anything so far this season, but they were very easy and capable of undermining Chelsea. And again, I'm looking at the head coach, I'm looking at the players, I'm looking at the lack of anything really. The basic nature of Chelsea's defending and how they are conceding goals at a level that I'd expect in non-league, let alone Premier League, is really, really shocking. And from there, alarm bells are starting to ring, because nothing has happened in the second half to make you think Chelsea have gained enough rhythm and confidence to go up the other end and score another goal. And Wolves are being, cheered on by their home fans, who finally have something to feel motivated and loud about. And then, of course, Liam Delap does the stupid thing of compounding really a night of ill discipline from Chelsea. Again, it wasn't just Liam Delap. He's the most obvious in terms of his stupidity, ruling himself out of the Spurs game when we thought he'd be a really great option to have back in the team. His performance all round was really poor, clearly lacking match sharpness. But, the stupidity of him for both yellow cards, which I think came in the space of about 7 minutes, really, or at least definitely under 10. Tyrique George got a stupid yellow. I think Estevao got a stupid yellow as well. There are a number of players who got yellow cards in this game, and the ill-discipline problem just continues, right? We've seen it from a variety of players across multiple seasons, and it's clear to me that little's being done to rectify it, because it's costing Chelsea, as we see with the amount of red cards. But on top of that, it's within games where, if you get a stupid yellow, it puts that player under more pressure. Maybe you're giving away fouls in areas that are going to create more pressure for your defence. The ill-discipline, the lack of cohesion, the lack of maturity is something that, continues to rear its head, unfortunately, for Chelsea. And I think plays into a second half that was so lacking in the basics. And when everything seemed to be going in a really dreadful direction, and, you got to mention Philip Bjorgensen again from very early on. I'm almost at the point where I'd be quite happy if I don't watch Philip Bjorgensen play again for Chelsea, because he's just so below what you want from a goalkeeper. He very much instills, instead of instilling confidence, he instills a lot of nerves whenever that ball goes towards his 6-yard box. There seems to be a lack of trust with his centre-backs. There was a moment very, very late on, literally in the closing stages of added time, where you thought that he was going to come out and maybe command the situation. And I think even Caicedo pushed him out of the way to clear the ball. His players, the defenders clearly don't trust him. He doesn't have a handle on it. I think teams know that, so they're going even more direct against us. Lincoln exposed that quite dramatically in the last round, and I think Wolves absolutely did. And there were very many close calls where it could have gone in a different direction, and Wolves could have got back into this game, which could have been complete disaster for Chelsea. Dread to really think what would have happened if they did equalise. But luckily, Jamie Gittens decided, now I'm going to step up, score my first Chelsea goal, and score one of the best goals we're going to see from a Chelsea player all season. Incredible strike with his right foot, just turned, smashed it, hits the inside of the post, goes across into the other corner of the net. And from there, you're like, okay, game over, thank God. Crisis averted. We've got through. That'll be it. Literally from the restart, Wolves kick the ball long. We are incapable of defending it, and Wolf once again somehow is able to hit a ball that hits Jorgensen. It's like a really scuffy ball that loops over under the crossbar, can't head it away, and again we're back into panic stations. Only one goal. Luckily we somehow made it through with 10 men with about 6 minutes added on. It was probably longer than that. Again, like I sort of look at it and go, it's a chaotic end and a chaotic half to a game that I thought could have been a real place for Chelsea to grow confidence, to grow rhythm. And that's exactly what the first half looked like. But the second half is what I think most people are going to look at. They're obviously going to look at the incredible finishing from Jamie Gittens, which I think is worth credit. This was his best Chelsea performance, and I think a positive note for him, it was a continuation of the good form we saw from him and performance from the Ajax game. So maybe he is closing in on maybe more first-team football after a shaky start to life at Chelsea. But the rest of the team, my problem is at the moment, it's not that there's nothing about this team. It's not that there's nothing positive. My worry is, and I keep on saying this, is we have stretches. I'm going to say whole halves of football matches. You're not sure if it's going to come in the first half or the second half. Tonight it was the second half, where Chelsea just seem to completely stop playing, stop doing the basics, stop defending properly, make stupid errors, ill discipline, create more pressure for us. And that happens against a variety of opposition. And as I keep on saying, if Chelsea want to have a successful season, even a decent season, this cannot continue, because you are playing with fire. You are playing with disaster, really. And that's what Chelsea were tonight against a really, really dreadful Wolves team. And now they go into the weekend against Spurs. I think lost tonight. Obviously haven't been doing great recently in the Premier League. It is a game at times Chelsea really are able to find some form and should be raising their levels exponentially, really. But my concern for the long term is, even if we turn up to big games and play well, there are far too many of these examples this season that make me concerned that this will just repeat and we won't get as lucky. And that's my concern at the moment. And I keep on saying it. And I think tonight, I don't want to sit here after a win and feel like I'm talking as if we lost a game, but I'm sure, like you, we've just watched the same game, and again, I always say this, right? Like I want to reflect reality. The reality is, Chelsea won. Some individuals deserve absolute praise for that, and we scored some really nice goals. But we also defended horrendously against a team bottom of the Premier League, and we continue to show signs of a group that has these vast lapses of concentration and make stupid errors and costly errors. And at the moment, the pendulum is swinging, wildly and erratically every single game, which means that at the moment, very, very hard to assume and be confident that Chelsea, even in one game, even in one half, are going to be able to sustain a good performance and get a good result. So those are my thoughts. We move on to the next round. Hopefully we get a decent draw. Arsenal have gotten through. Palace have smashed Liverpool once again. Man City, Newcastle last night. I think Fulham and Cardiff. I think Cardiff is probably the most favourable draw that everyone wants, right? So we'll see who we get in the next round. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Red flags, but we are through to the next round.